Well, this morning we are talking about what is at stake in the midterm elections, and a buzzword you've probably heard a lot recently. That word is woke. What's that all about? Well, the polls show something here is going on. A recent CBS poll showed that more than two-thirds of Americans, believe their rights and freedoms are what's on the line in November. That's an even greater share of voters than are worried about their financial well-being. And nearly half of those surveyed said that our culture and way of life is at stake, again, in November, in the midterms. The result is an election that's about different policies, yes, but also very different visions of what America is right now and what America should be in the future. And perhaps nowhere is that more evident than in the state of Florida. In the battle to define America, Governor Ron DeSantis has what amounts to his very own fight song. He stands up for what he believes. Plus a campaign ad inspired by Top Gun.
When they fire, you fire back with overwhelming force.
And if there's one political target he seems to favor above all others, it's this one.
Woke is the new religion of the left.
We're not going to let this state descend into some type of woke dumpster fire.
We will never, ever surrender to the woke agenda.
In fact, the whole Florida Republican Party seems to be taking on what it calls the woke left.
How are you? Tony Dokoupil. I hate it.
Including Senator Rick Scott, who released a 12-point plan for all Republicans in the Senate to rescue America from woke elitists, woke indoctrination, and a new religion of wokeness. But hold on a minute. What does woke even mean?
To you, what does it mean to be woke? I don't know what the definition of woke so much is. I do know that I think most people don't want to be lectured by companies. So I think that's sort of what people think of woke. Or let me put it differently. In what way is the woke left, in your view, a threat to America itself?
Well, when our schools don't teach our kids that we're the greatest country in the world, when they disrespect our flag, when kids are told that they don't have a shot because of their skin color, I don't think that's the country I grew up in.
Merriam-Webster, back in 2017, defined woke as aware of and actively attentive to important facts and issues like race and social justice. Black Lives Matter! But use of the word has broadened into complex debates about abortion, history, and identity, not to mention whether corporations should get involved in any of it.
The right began to use it as a kind of dog whistle for anyone on the left and anything that smacked of progressive politics.
James Davison Hunter is a professor of sociology at the University of Virginia. He says the new war over woke isn't really new at all.
We have been winning the cultural war.
The cultural war is raging across our land.
Instead, he says it's a continuation of the culture wars, a concept he first popularized in a book way back in 1991.
Why did you call it a war?
Well, from the vantage point of the actors involved, it felt like war. And there was this sense that what is at stake is what I cherish most about my life and about the world I live in and the world I hope to leave to my children.
No small thing.
And cumulatively, it becomes a struggle to define the meaning of America.
Abolish abortion! And that struggle continues today, worrying Hunter because the fight has gotten meaner, he says, and our ability to talk to one another has broken down.
Politics, in theory, is supposed to be how we work things out.
Exactly.
So we don't come to violence.
Exactly.
Is politics working anymore?
That's part of the problem. Our politics is now so driven by culture. When people no longer see a way out politically, they'll choose alternative strategies to pursue their agenda. I don't think there's any question that there will be more violence going forward.
More violence, he predicts, along with more elections in which the results are not accepted by all sides. And that is the biggest threat to America. at least according to Democratic Florida State Representative Anna Escamani.
What does woke mean to you?
It just means being aware of your history.
Her Orlando office is filled with pictures and slogans that tell you right away where she stands on the issues and hint at why she's so dug in to fight.
Is there any room for compromise?
I mean, it's very difficult to compromise on a policy that erases the history of people of color. And I've had this conversation with Republican leadership on abortion specifically of, where's the compromise? And the reality is that it's very hard to compromise when you're basically telling me that I am less than and I do not have the same rights as you.
And that unbending attitude is there on the Republican side as well.
They're trying to take freedom and they want control. That's exactly what they do. That's what they do with socialism. They ultimately take away your freedoms. It sounds really nice, right? But in the end, it's evil.
Yet a lot of Americans believe this is all a big distraction, and that includes Charlie Crist, who's running against DeSantis for governor. In a statement to CBS News, he says every election, Republicans invent some new boogeyman instead of trying to solve problems and make people's lives better. But Professor Hunter warns we shouldn't underestimate just how important these issues are to so many of our fellow Americans.
If we just think that these are side issues, that these things actually don't really matter, we're missing what is most combustible about the culture war and most combustible about the moment that we're living in right now.
So I think the professor makes such a good point there. These are sometimes talked about as distractions when what really matters is the economy or healthcare, but these are the issues that are core to who people are, who we are as a country. And the word woke specifically came out of Black American culture. It was a way to talk about racial inequality. It's broadened a lot since then, and it's become essentially a byword for all right and wrong in our public life.
Right. I've always thought it was hyper-awareness on specific issues to one person. But then you kind of extrapolate that and you say, okay, what's important to me? Because it's all relative to what's important to a specific man or woman or a group or a political party. So woke has been taken and just stretched out so thin, and it can be used in so many different ways.
Yeah, I love the professor is actually saying do not minimize this. This is very important. I hope he's not correct, though, when he says you can expect more violence going forward. But I see signs of that already, Tony.
Oh, absolutely.
That are very frightening.
So that professor who's at a very fancy place at the University of Virginia, the Institute for the Advanced Studies in Culture, in the 90s wrote a book called Before the Shooting Starts. And it was about how culture wars always precede shooting wars. And in particular, he was talking about violence around abortion. And he came up with that title 5 days before the first right-wing attack on an abortion clinic in America. So he's very good at anticipating what people internalize as motivation for violence. And what he's saying right now is when there's no compromise, when one side is saying evil and the other side is saying you're denying my humanity, those are terms for violence.
But it was interesting that Senator Scott seems to use the word woke a lot, but then when you asked him what does it mean?
Seemed like a
his
slippery
first thing
definition.
was,
Because it means everything and nothing right now in this country. That's the bottom line.
It's well said.